So last week we did the Aeolian mode, the first of all of them. Now we're going to do a different one today. We're going to pick out, oh, perfect, Aeolian, the relative minor. So the Aeolian is when most people think of a key being either major or minor, they're thinking about the relative Ionian or Aeolian to one another. So it's perfect to start this series with which to start the series, and I rolled a 1. So 1 would be an A. So Aeolian is going to be perfect. That's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. And obviously A is the open A string. No black keys, no sharps or flats. This should be a fun one. It's going to be really basic, and we're going to get into some really cool stuff here. So the Aeolian mode is the 6th of the 7 modes, and you'll often see it represented as lowercase 6, and that's to show us that it's lowercase to show us that it's a minor chord, but it's also our relative minor in this key. And what that means is here we're in the key of A Aeolian, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, and what that means is that set of notes as the A Aeolian, it's our relative minor, we're also in the key of A minor. Let's take a look at the 3 basic shapes I always show in these Autumn of Modes videos. The first is vertical. Now, that's one of my favorite shapes, and it prioritizes traversing the strings up and down over position shifts or stretches. So you'll notice we're not doing any stretches, and there's one position shift when we get to the G string. The next shape, which I think is often overlooked, is the horizontal. And with a horizontal shape, what we do is we're going to find a root note. In this case, I'm going to start with an A on the 2nd fret of the G, and we apply the intervals to play all these notes. So that's going to be a whole step, half step, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. We can play that. Once we've got those intervals mapped out, we can play that in any direction. And in the previous video on the Ionian mode, I went through some other techniques you can use, like thirds with slides, and hammer-ons and pull-ups. If you're interested in checking that out, you should check out that video if you're not familiar with the Ionian mode. It's the relative major of any key. I'll put a card up here and a link in the description. But I honestly think that learning things on a single string in what I call a horizontal shape is widely overlooked in terms of how to understand what the mood of a specific scale, or in this case the Aeolian mode, how that sounds and the mechanics of it. It's also indispensable in terms of connecting different shapes across the fretboard. So the third shape we're going to look at is 3 notes per string. So that's the same 3 octaves as this. But you'll notice that we're doing, that's a little loud to me. Is the vertical. 3 notes per string is this. Now you'll notice that we're stretching a little bit more. We've got the same number of position shifts so far for the 3 octaves. But what it does is, instead of prioritizing position shifting like horizontal or string traversal like vertical, it really prioritizes speed and efficiency, and a lot of like really fast players love these shapes because it allows you to work like that. Now I'm not playing with a pick right now because I usually don't, but when you are playing with a pick, there's a lot of advantages to playing the 3 note per string pattern. Let's take a look at that also with the root on the A string. Right here I was starting with the root on the D. can use that same pattern with a couple changes. With a root on the A. It can be really helpful because now I've got this here, you know, and here, as well as. So I've got options in different positions on the fretboard to play this. Let's complete that, the pattern with the root on the low E string. We're going to use the high E to continue the pattern, and then move up to the 5th, which is a much more natural ending note, but also will allow us to start here and use 3 notes per string to descend. And then back to the root. So if we put those together, on the chart over there, it's going to look like 4 notes per string, but we're using the lower 3 to ascend and the higher 3 to descend. So in a minute, we're going to take a look at the harmonic minor, which is the first alteration that most people make to the Aeolian mode. It has a really specific sound. A lot of people are looking for it, and it's very much related to the mood that the Aeolian creates. But before we do that, let's make sure that we understand how to use the Aeolian mode in a different key and how to apply it so that we can get a sense of its basic mood. So I'm going to move to C minor. So I'm going to find C here on the low E, and our vertical shape is going to look like this. Horizontal shape, we'll just find any C anywhere. Let's start with that first fret. And let's do a little bit lower. 3rd fret of the A string. Apply our interval. Melodies always sound really great when played in a horizontal shape. And let's do that one more time. I'm going to try it up here. I wasn't sure if I had enough frets, but we can extend down. So the horizontal, I think it's slept on. It lets you use a lot of the fretboard. And now if we take a look at our 3 notes per string. And then on the A, you can see how that could immediately lead into my, since I'm ending on the root, that can lead into my horizontal mode, and I can play. So that's, the horizontal is a great way to connect any of the other shapes together. Let's take that into a little jam and then take a look at the harmonic minor. So when I started playing lead guitar, there was a mood I was trying to get to that was pretty close with the Aeolian, but I couldn't figure out what was missing. And what was missing is making the alteration to turn it into the harmonic minor. Now we're also going to move to the mighty E minor key here. So our E minor Aeolian would be E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. Also up on the 12th fret. Now, the alteration that you make to move this to the harmonic minor is you just take the 7th note, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you make it sharp. So move it up a half fret. So we're going to replace the D and use a D sharp every time it would show up. That will change our vertical shape to look like this. You can already hear how much that changes the feel of the entire mode, right? So let's take a look at doing that in our horizontal as well. And again, it's going to be the same pattern, but just make the 7th sharp. has a very like classical vampire feel to it that I always was searching for when I was playing in the Aeolian before I figured out how to make this alteration. So finally, let's take a look at our 3 notes per string. And I'm just going to say up front that the 3 notes per string shape is one that I see people use all the time. I don't find it very useful with a root on the low E. I almost never play that particular shape. Instead, I find myself much more often playing 3 notes per string with the root on the A string. The fingering seems to make a lot more sense to me there, and I have the root up on the high E still. So let's get into a jam because I know this one's going to be fun. The sad and somber Aeolian mode lives in the shadows, and I hope you learned a lot about it, and of course the harmonic minor in today's video. This was the 3rd video in the Autumn of Modes. I'm going to go through all 7 of the modes, one every week, every Tuesday. And then when I'm done with those, to complete the series, I'm going to talk about modal interchange for both songwriting and lead playing. So make sure you like and subscribe and you don't miss out on any of those. While you're at it, sign up on my email list. There's a link in the description that'll give you immediate access to my guitar chord survival kit. I post a long video like this every Tuesday and a shorter video every Fretboard Friday. So I'll see you around, and I hope you learned something. Cheers.